truly thrive. It takes us all, both big and small, to build a nation strong, to stand for truth and give our all, and right where things went wrong. So raise your voice and join the call, let honesty take flight. Together we can break the fall and fill our land with light. Shine a light, shine a light.
Welcome back to the program Accountability Hour, and as we've always stated, this program is produced by the communication section of Cental. It is part of our information dissemination strategy. This is where we, engage you, members of the public, and solicit your active participation in the fight against corruption, because corruption is everybody's business. Cental cannot fight corruption alone. The LACC cannot fight corruption alone. The GSC cannot fight corruption alone. The fight against corruption requires all, and that is why we solicit your support, your participation. You can call on this platform. You can report allegations of corruption through our Advocacy and Legal Advice Center. There's a number available for you to call. It's free of charge. You don't need to have money on your phone. All you need to do is to have a phone that is charged and is able to make a call and participate. Be active. Don't sit idle. Don't sit and say corruption is the people's thing. Corruption is everybody's thing. And all of us, in the marketplaces, in the churches, in the mosques, we all need to come together and join the fight against corruption. And it's very easy. We have a platform. We've paid both Orange and Lone Star subscribers for whatever call that you would like to make. So if you make a call, that call will be paid. The cost of that call will be covered by Cental through our Advocacy and Legal Advice Center. So you just need to make a call. If you're in an office or in a space where you see corrupt practices occurring, or somebody is indulging into bribery or extortion, sextortion, whatever the offense or the form of corruption may be, you have a line, you have a platform available for you. We have lawyers at Cental. They are trained, they are willing, and they are ready to respond to complaints of corruption. They are very, very, very trained enough to conceal your identity. They are not going to disclose your identity, so you need not to be afraid. All you need to do is to muster the courage and report corruption to Cental. And once you do that, Cental is going to, refer those complaints or those allegations to the relevant authority, which most likely is the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. So that is the institution that is statutorily responsible to investigate and prosecute corruption-related offenses. So if you report your allegation of corruption to Cental, we're going to review it and submit it to the LACC. If it's labor-related issue, probably someone is, treating you badly, or there's bad labor practice going on, and you want to seek legal advice from our ELAC team, you can call and we'll refer that case to the relevant authority, which in that case will be the Ministry of Labor. So that is that about what we're doing at Cental. There are a couple of things the executive director will, talk about a lot more that we've done and what we are planning to do as we enter 2026, especially in the wake of, drawdowns, some donor drawdowns, and what are some of the things we're, thinking about, or some of the things that we may do as an institution. At this juncture, I will turn now to the Executive Director of Cental, Anderson Dimiame. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Edward.
Can you draw the microphone a little bit to yourself? Okay. Okay, great.
Good morning, Edward. Good morning, Blessing in studio, providing technical support as always. And good morning to all persons listening out there. We're happy to be here. Thank God for another broadcast day, a week. It's always a pleasure to be here in this studio to talk about the things that matter. In this instant case, to talk about what we're doing at Cental. May I say also thank you, Edward, for ably leading the media team at Cental, working alongside Mark Bondau and the rest of the other colleagues who provide support to you from time to time. We're grateful. Let's continue to work for and on behalf of the Liberian people.
Okay, let's go to business. What is the state of Cental currently as we speak? You've been doing quite a lot since the beginning of 2025. There are a couple of things, a whole lot of things, but just give a general picture of how Cental looks like now.
So, thank you. Cental is doing well, relatively. There's always a need for improvement. As a human being, as a person, whether legal person or natural person, you want to improve upon the things you do. Even if you are at your peak, you can go beyond that level. You can scale up, you can expand, you can increase wherever you're doing, the scope of your engagement. You can also improve upon the quality of wherever you do. So at Cental, we're keen about improvement, because the moment you start to think that you've reached entirely and there's no need for improvement, then something is wrong. So that is the culture we are building. That is the mindset we have. And because of that, we continue to make efforts, earnest efforts, to build partnerships, to build relationships, to mobilize resources, and to, more importantly, properly utilize the existing resources we have, financial, non-financial, and other resources, to do the kind of things we have to do. As you indicated, this is an anti-corruption organization. This is a pro-transparency organization. This is a pro-democracy organization. In fact, anti-corruption is a key element of democracy. When you are talking about democratic principles, corruption, anti-corruption, good governance, inclusion, and many of the things that come along when you deal with corruption are the things that democracy talks about. So in a way, we're a pro-democracy organization. And we're glad that we have enjoyed considerable partnership and support over the period. We could not have done all of what we've done over the years, including what we did in 2025 and what we're still doing or still to do, if we do not enjoy the confidence of the Liberian people. So I want to put it out there to the Liberian public for being very supportive of our work. In fact, Liberians are the foundation upon which we've built all of the different things we've done over time. We appreciate the support, and we look forward to continuing to work with them as we move on. May I also say that we are grateful to the Embassy of Sweden, our donors, for supporting our work over time. We may have the ideas, we may have the thought, have different thought processes in terms of what we want to do, brilliant ideas, but those things will not be put into practice, will not be actualized if we do not have the resources to get the staffing required, technical expertise to build capacity, and to also get the logistics required to move around. Sweden provided us with logistics, considerable logistics. They provided us with 2 vehicles since we started the partnership in 2020. 2 vehicles. They've provided us computers and different logistics that we have been using to do our work, not just run the program we have with them, but then do other things that we could not easily do then. We're very grateful to the government, people of Sweden, for that. We're partnering at the moment with UN Women. We talk about the project we're doing with them, the enhancing citizens' participation in local governance. That's important. We're grateful to them for that partnership. It is allowing us to work with the Women NGO Secretariat of Liberia, Wongosa, to engage a lot more with locals in terms of ensuring that we build capacity of women, persons with disabilities, and the rest of the other populations at the local level, and build capacity around local resources, local structures, for example, the county service centers, the county councils, the leadership at the local level, and how they can access services, but then also demand accountability of their leaders. We are grateful to Transparency International, as always, for being that partner, that technical support arm, to Cental in terms of, overseeing in a way the things we do and providing support along the way, whether modest or not, to get us to do some of the things we do. We're grateful. To the government of Liberia, we're also grateful. I know the relationship we have with the government, sometimes it's a bittersweet relationship, understandably because of the nature of the work we do. You can't fight against corruption and do not make enemies. That is not what you want, but because you speak truth to power, you say things that many people sometimes do not want to hear, especially power holders, you tend to make enemies. But you're making those enemies for the right reasons. So we will not shy away from doing that, but we're grateful for the cordial relationship for the most part in terms of the spaces we've been able to access to engage. Because with our government, we cannot succeed in the things we do. Like you said earlier, we're not the lead anti-corruption organization or institution in the country. It is government's foremost responsibility to fight corruption. And so what we do complements government's efforts. We support the work of the LACC and other institutions that are leading the charge directly, indirectly to tackle corruption and other abuses, financial and other abuses. So we're grateful for that support. Even the private sector, we engage with them. Let me not leave the media out. Very important. The media is extremely important to what we do. This space we're having to discuss, communicate our ideas, talk about the impacts of what we're doing, what we plan to do, what we've done, and what we're doing at the moment. We wouldn't have that space to do that if there is not a partnership with the media. So sometimes we pay for time, but there are times that they also give us airtime. I would say free, because once you don't pay for something, it means it's free. But they do that a lot, and we're grateful to them for that. I don't want to leave out the Embassy of Ireland, which is one of the main supporters of our work at the moment. The Embassy of Ireland in 2024 began a partnership with Cental, NAMO, and the Center for Democratic Governance to implement the Strengthening Political Governance and Accountability in Liberia project. That consortium project has been moving on very well. We'll talk a little bit more about what we're doing, particularly on that project. But we are grateful to them for that support that has allowed us to scale up our engagement and venture into new territories in terms of Tomale counties that we didn't work in before actively, or we worked in but we stopped working because of resource and other constraints. MyGivi, for example, that project is allowing us to engage a lot more in MyGivi County. We have stopped working in MyGivi, not deliberately, but because of condition, financial and other reasons. And that program, under that program, Cental is leading engagement efforts in MyGivi, just as NAMO is doing in Bone County, and the Center for Democratic Governance is doing in Grand Bassa. So, yeah, in short, we're grateful for the support, the partnership. I wanted to, say this at the beginning before going into the rest of the other things that we have to talk about, because with our partnership, you cannot succeed.
Yes, and back on that partnership front, you've been having different donors from, 20 years back since you were established. And you've seen donors come and not leave, but then, slow down on some of their support. And quite recently, you've seen USAID, which is one of your major partners, supported different activities and different programs, leave. And then you've also seen the Swedish embassy announcing that they will be leaving Liberia, by the end of next year. How do you receive such news, or what do you think about some of those things, and how is it going to affect the work that you do?
So the news is a bittersweet news. Bittersweet in the sense that we've always talked about the need for Liberians to take ownership of what they do. And local ownership, doing the most to ensure that we maximize the benefits of the resources we have locally. So over time, Cental and other CSOs have been heavily reliant on upon the international partners for support. And Sweden, like I said earlier, has been the biggest donor to Cental in the history of the organization. So we're grateful for that. that they've announced that they'll be leaving sometime in 2026 is not a good news in one respect, but then is a positive in the sense that not just from the point of view of Cental as a country, these different developments give us reasons to do more to make the most of our resources. So from the country's standpoint, Yusuf left, and Sweden has announced that it will be leaving. Many other international partners we have here, international NGOs we have operating, have left either due to the USA withdrawal or the left prior due to other reasons. Maybe the reasons they have, we had just come from war, and we needed certain support at the time, technical and other support, and there are other countries or regions that may be in need of those kinds of support more than we do. So they've left. What that says to us is that as a country, we need to make the most of our budget. As a country, we need to lead well. Our leaders need to lead by example. They need to set very high standards. The way we manage public resources, allocate them in the first place before even coming to management. We have to be evidence-based. We have to be citizens-centered, and we have to be development-focused, such that we foster inclusive and sustainable development, and we're impacting lives with the resources we have. Then that way, we wouldn't really feel the impact as much as we're in a global village and we need our international partners just as they need us. People come here to get raw materials and take them to other countries. We are hoping that we can even get to a point where we can add value to the resources we have in terms of how we do extraction, the extractive sector, agriculture, and the other sectors, the things we do. But the leaving of these people kind of send a message to us that, look, these partners will not always be around. Okay. Try to put yourself together, eradicate corruption, and that's the positive side in terms of the cool things that we do. It sends a message to the government that, look, take the things that Cental, LACC, and these other people are seeing seriously and manage the resources of the country properly. Allocate those resources judiciously. Don't put too much money in one space and leave out the others. I mean, when I say don't put too much money, it doesn't mean that everybody should have equal, there should be equality at that level in terms of 200,000 going here, 200,000 going here. But you can fund the things that will be catalytic in terms of impact. So you fight corruption, for example. And we've said this over time. Many people do not see the fight against corruption as a fundraising strategy for the government and the country. They don't see that. Even we who are in NGOs, when you operate credibly, when you manage the resources you have properly, it allows other donors to come in and support your work. But when you corrupt, one donor's resources and they know that, and that information goes across, the rest of the other people will not want to come to and deal with you. So it's the same thing with the government. We cry for funding, thanks to the government for taking our budget to 1.2 billion. LRA has indicated that they can collect far more than that if they get significant support from the government in terms of mobilizing domestic resources. But at the center of everything is the need for us to address the loopholes we have in the system, tackle corruption, such that the departure of these partners, as much as we need them, they've been very well, critical to our development process and all of that. We can limit the impact of their departure on our lives, whether as Cental, as a civil society organization, or as the government in general, in terms of the things we do.
So let's go back to one of the biggest programs that you run, which is the National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program, which is funded by the Embassy of Sweden through CEDA. You've done a couple of activities on that program over the course of the year. What are some of the striking outcomes from those activities? Just give some general picture of some of the things and some of the outcomes.
So when you say outcome, many people out there really know what you're talking about.
So what came out of some of the things?
Yeah, no, I'll talk about. It's basically to say what has resulted from your work.
Great.
The work we do is a soft kind of work. It's not one of those things like building rules that is practical, that is physical, that people would see and say, okay, yeah, you've paved, maybe 10 miles a road
Yeah.
or 10 kilometers a road, wherever that is visible, or you provide logistics, you provide rice, you provide supplies to people, or you build bridges and they are tangible for people to see. So because of that intangible nature of the work we do, sometimes it's difficult to communicate the impact. But we can say that our partnership with the Embassy of Sweden over time has been remarkable in terms of making impact at different levels. If you even just pull it to the organization before talking about the external impact, Cental has grown significantly in terms of the things it does.
Yep.
The state of corruption report we produce annually, that report has been shedding light on actions and inactions when it comes to the fight against corruption in Liberia. That is an impact. If you talk about availability of data, local data, locally produced credible data that you can use to inform decisions when it comes to anti-corruption and even governance, that is something that you can talk about. Data available to CSOs, to Cental, to other civil society organizations, to the media, to development partners and the government to inform the things they do. So when we say, for example, that most citizens are saying that they need jobs, or most citizens are saying that government needs to do more to fight against corruption. The legislature needs to improve upon the way it conducts its activities. That confidence level in the legislature is low, as indicated in the previous report. And we come back to see the legislature talking about opening themselves up for audit. Then it means that those things that citizens are saying, as highlighted in our reports and communicated by us and other actors, are being considered by the government,
Okay.
especially so the legislature, that the GAC will be coming in. When we talk about judicial corruption, for example, the loopholes in the system in terms of unethical behaviors of judges, lawyers, court officials, and all of that, and the Chief Justice comes in to initiate a reform or process to say, look, we're going to put CCTVs in different court at different courts to ensure that people are tracked. We're also going to enhance measures to ensure that the conduct of judges and other people are monitored, and where there are violations, people can be sanctioned.
Yep.
That's, those are the kind of things that we're talking about. So that's one part. If you look at also even the youth engagement program that we're running, that program has been one of the standout programs at Cental over the period, whereby we engage with young people. There is a whole conversation around, shifting a little bit away from targeting the older generation and moving towards the young people who are future leaders and all of that. While as an organization, we take the position that it's important for us to deal with the sanctions. Why it's true that we need to deal with the young people, engage with them, which is more of the preventive measure. We believe as an institution that when you set very high standards, when you sanction people, when you prosecute people, it sends a greater message to the young people and the rest of the other folks that, look, corruption is not a way out. When you corrupt and you are investigated, prosecuted, convicted, you go to jail, you lose out on your resources, you miss out on the time you're supposed to have with your family, your children, grow up not seeing you around, all of those things. It sends a greater message, a bigger message. But at the same time, we have to engage with the young people. That's what we're doing with the youth engagement program, with the clubs we have at different universities. And the students that are part of these clubs have been giving very interesting accounts of, how their involvement with these clubs has shifted their behaviors in a positive direction in terms of capacity. Some of them were shy. They can now talk because they're engaging with their peers. They are going to communities to engage. One of the students at some point even indicated that her parents were abroad or are abroad, and they used to send her fees down. She was attending one of the universities, and she would overcharge her parents because they didn't know what the school was charging, and she would use the extra fees, the extra amount to settle other personal obligations. When she got involved with the art club and got the message that, corruption was not a way out, overcharging people is cheating, it's good to be ethical in the things you do, she changed. So her story now is that she's no longer doing that. She's giving her parents the actual amount in terms of what the school is charging. And if she needs anything other than what the school is charging, she then makes that request, as a separate
Yep.
request. So these are the kinds of impacts we're making, especially with the program. Look at the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, for example. Prior to this center coming to life, LSCC had a system to report corruption, but it wasn't as diversified and decentralized, as it should.
Okay.
With this program, we introduced the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center with the lawyers and other technicians that then receive corruption and other complaints. Some of these complaints we filed there to LSCC, but there have been some complaints that we have intervened ourselves to make settlement. So people have come with labor issues, for example, or people have come with issues regarding Social Security that they worked, they've retired, they've been retired, and it's becoming difficult for them to go through the Social Security system in terms of processing them. We intervened on many occasions, and people got, through the system, and some of them, started to get the benefits. Even some private security, actor firms or workers have been coming to us to raise issues regarding, bad labor practices on the part of their employers. We had to intervene in those cases and got their required payments. So the ALAC has been one of the standout programs at Cental in terms of providing citizens to safe space to report corruption, get redress, ensure that there is a follow-up, a third-party follow-up. So the importance or the benefit of reporting to us, I'm not saying it's not a good thing to report directly to LSCC or some of the institutions that deal directly with these matters, but when you report to an institution like Cental, you have an opportunity to get somebody that follows up on your behalf. So instead of you engaging, following up, and sometimes it takes so much resources, so much time, these people do not have the access, they do not have the resources to be calling and checking and all of that. So when you do that through Cental, it gives you that space to engage. We do the follow-up on your behalf and give you the feedback from time to time in terms of the status of your case. Move away from that and talk about the corruption case tracker.
Okay.
An innovation, of Cental, working alongside LSCC and other public integrity institutions. At the time, prior to introduction of the tracker and its proper functioning at the moment, we didn't have a place where people could go to see corruption cases. LSCC used to report cases on its website, but it wasn't in the fashion we have it on the corruption case tracker of Cental at the moment. And when we talk about corruption case tracker, we're talking about a platform, online platform, web-based platform that you can go to. So the link for those who are listening, who may be hearing about it for the first time, is www.cct, which represents Corruption Case Tracker, .cental, CENTAL.org.lr. So www.cct.cental.org.lr. Once you put that in your Google or whatever browser it is, it will take you to that site, and you will see the cases that LSCC and other institutions are dealing with when it comes to corruption. The good thing about that site is that it gives you so much information that you can use for advocacy and other purposes, and to even commend the government on the LSCC for the good things it is doing, or the good things they're doing. So you go on that site, you will see your case. It will give you a summary of the case, the facts of the case in terms of the actors, how much is involved, and all of that. It will also give you the status of the case in terms of where it is. So the case could be under investigation by the LSCC, or the issue could be under investigation. It could be that investigation has been completed by LSCC, and it could also be that an indictment has been drawn, because after investigation, if you got all of the different pieces of evidence, you have to draw up indictment. It is the formal charging, part of it, to say that what we have in our hands is weighty, that this person committed X, Y, and Z, and we're ready to go to court for the court to prosecute this person, or the government to prosecute this person. So the indictment is in June, and then the matter is in court. So that can be a status. If the matter is in court, it could also be that the lower court has heard the matter and made a decision on it in terms of whether or not the person is guilty or the defendant is guilty. So either there's an acquittal or there's a guilty verdict. And if there's a guilty verdict, most times people will take appeal. Our law requires defendants to take a appeal,
Yeah.
is the option available to them to go to the next level, or what is called upstairs in the law, to say go to the Supreme Court, that is the final arbiter of justice under our jurisprudence, to hear the matter and then make a final determination. It could be that at the lower court level, maybe the judge erred, or there were things that the defending party accepted to, that they were not satisfied with, that they noted in open court that, look, we disagree with this decision, we disagree with this. Or it could be that the final outcome of the case, the decision is such that that person is not in agreement with it. Maybe they think that the weight of the evidence is against the decision of the trial judge, and so they go on appeal at the Supreme Court. So you get, in terms of status also, on that side, you will see that there's a ruling, at the lower level, and this matter is on appeal at the Supreme Court. And if the Supreme Court has made a final determination, then we say this matter has been decided upon entirely. Because after the Supreme Court, you can't go anywhere.
So in essence, you don't need to go to the LSCC office to ask about status of a case or to know what's happening on this particular case. You just go to the
Exactly, especially for the cases that we have. And we're doing this in partnership with the LSCC, such that we have current information as much as possible. So when an investigation has been announced, something is out there in the public, we get to LSCC for the information and we put it on the site. Remember, we're a very strong partner to LSCC. In fact, at some point, people call us big brother to LSCC because we're established in 2004. LSCC was established in 2008. Even though we're a civil society organization, but many of the things that went into LSCC coming into being were part of them. When you talk about popularizing the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, for example, at the time, with the Governance Reform Commission, what we call now the Governance Commission, when it was called the Governance Reform Commission, were part of that. The initial meetings that led to the code of conduct being drafted and all of that, those were things that Cental heavily participated in and even led at some point. I mean, not necessarily the code of conduct aspect, but the freedom of information law, for example, there was a whole coalition of civil society organizations that we were part of that engaged actively and led to passage of the freedom of information law. So we've been around for some time. We are a partner in the integrity space. Talk about what we're doing with the National Integrity Forum, for example. This is a very important group or body that was established by the different integrity actors long time ago to collaborate, which is very important in the fight against corruption, in promoting democracy, fostering democracy development, and all of that. You need to collaborate. You need to bring like minds together. You need to leverage on the resources, financial and other resources of the different players to ensure that you're engaging in a coordinated fashion. So while people may be doing different things individually, at some point you have to collaborate because your goal is to end impunity for corruption, eradicate corruption, ensure that public resources are used properly. So the NIF was reactivated on the National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program, thanks to Sweden again for the support. And since then, we have been providing that support. The NIF has been engaging, doing feed posting, for example, documenting services that different institutions are providing. Whether you want to talk about the Ministry of Internal Affairs in terms of, the fees for marriage certificates and all of that, we've posted information on Internal Affairs regarding that, thanks to the partnership at the Liberal Business Registry. We also have one to talk about the processes around registering your business, and then how much you paid and all of that. We have one at the Ministry of Transport in terms of the different fees and the processes around acquiring different services, whether driver's lessons and all of that. I mean, we've been doing that even at the Bureau of Vital Statistics, where you go to get your birth certificate, the processes to go through, how much you pay. We've been able to do that. We are decentralizing that at the moment. We also have one at the border in Ganta, the Ganta border, immigration, in terms of immigration services. We intend to do more. There's one at RIA as well, in terms of services and all of that. The whole idea is to foster transparency. Access to information is very important. If people have information, they can engage, they are empowered, they can demand accountability and take advantage of opportunities. So that's what we're doing with that aspect of the program. And maybe the open expenditure
Yes, I was just coming
program,
to that. Yep.
very important. In fact, we just launched a report on the open expenditure program on the county social development funds. With the open expenditure initiative, we're looking at going beyond the national budget, the numbers, to say, look, yes, we get the allocations. Health has maybe 10 million, education has 20 million, or this school has 5 million. Where the actual correction takes place is when the funds are being disbursed
Yep.
and when they are being used to do the programs or to procure the services, the goods and services in actuality. So we go down there to check and make sure that those resources are reaching the people and whether or not they're reaching. And part of what we've been doing with that is to either track the national budget, run the analysis in terms of what it is, who is getting what, whether the budget is weighing one side, like we've been seeing over time with the legislature. There've been a lot of complaints regarding giving so much to themselves.
Yep.
They have to back out 3 times, every 3 years. That's so much, in our mind in terms of the needs of the country and all of that. But that open expenditure report, basically on the County Social Development Fund, highlighted a number of positives. We launched it. It's on our website. It's been making impact in certain counties, in many counties, in fact, across the different counties. Schools are being built. Some are using the funds to provide logistics in terms of supplies to clinics and other facilities. Some are using them to provide some sort of support to education services. But there have been challenges around citizens' participation in the whole process around determining projects.
Yep.
Some of the projects, a lot of the projects that are implemented in many of these counties are projects that tend to benefit politicians or the local authorities and not necessarily the citizenry. So if you take the examples we got in the report in terms of NIBA, in terms of BASA, the renovation of different, housing facilities, that politicians will benefit from, even though yes, the leaders who will sit in these offices will be representing the people. But if you match that against building a bridge or improving a school in one of those remote areas, I would go for renovating
Yep.
a school that is owner supported, that doesn't have teachers, that doesn't have supplies. I would go for that than renovating a facility that politicians will sit in.
Okay.
So while that may be good, I mean, it's important that we focus on projects that will benefit citizens far more.
Okay, so let's go to the other, which has to do with the JOSA. You partnering with civil society organizations, community-based groups, as part of the Joint Civil Society and Anti-Corruption Initiative. What is that all about?
Yeah, so the Joint Civil Society Anti-Corruption Initiative is basically our way of working with community-based organizations. Like I said, we can fight against corruption alone. We have to partner at the national level. We're partnering at the community level. We're also partnering, and that engagement with the Joint Civil Society Anti-Corruption Initiative is allowing us to work with community-based organizations, build their capacity, work along with them to do a number of initiatives, undertake a number of initiatives, high-level engagements, petitioning ceremonies, and different other things that we do. I want us to transition a little bit to some of the other programs. For example, what we're doing with the Embassy of Ireland in Liberia.
Okay.
That's important. That program is a consultative program, like I said. For the first time, 3 organizations came together that are working on governance, democracy, looking at different things, different teams to support decentralization, basically, anti-corruption, decentralization, public service delivery. So in 2024, we signed that agreement with the Embassy of Ireland to get that direct support. Thanks to them for that. And now most Cental and the CDG, the Center for Democratic Governance, have been engaging. We've been doing a number of things. We have been, for example, leading the anti-corruption aspect of that project. Part of what we've been doing with that program is simplifying audit reports. The whole audit report is bulky. When GSC produces a report, technical language and all of that, many people do not understand. But even if they understand, where do they access it? It's on the website. How many people can go on the website? So we take certain other reports and simplify them. Thanks to the media team for working alongside the other colleagues to do that. and we basically give a snippet of the audit reports in terms of the key points. And it has been very useful. The GAC has provided feedback over time, and the Auditor General will say, look, I don't know how you guys do this thing, because it's as if we are producing this simplified version of our reports. But you do that with limited involvement of the GAC, but it's so, good, the quality is okay, and all of that. We look forward to doing more of that.
Yeah.
With that program, also, we've been enhancing or strengthening our or deepening engagement in Maikipi. The project is in 3 counties: Grand Bassa, Maikipi, and Bon. Like I said, we are leading engagements in Maikipi County, and that's one of the important things that this project has done. Maikipi used to be one of the areas we worked before, but at some point we stopped working there, not intentionally, but because of resource and other constraints. This project allows us to go back in MyTV and work, and we have been engaging very deeply.
Okay.
In fact, recently, for the first time, we collaborated with the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission to decentralize the celebration of the International Anti-Corruption Day, which is a day that is set aside by the UN to bring visibility to anti-corruption issues globally, and then talk about how we can deal with it. We have parallel events, just as we're having the national celebration in Monrovia at the ministerial complex. We were having another event, LACC and partners, along with even the Integrity Forum in Maigibi, to commemorate the day. Young people were mobilized, the petitioned their leaders, the local administration, the superintendent, and other officials to do more to enhance accountability and make sure that the local resources, the social development funds, are used in ways that will benefit the population. So there's a lot we're doing, engaging, and all of that. We hope to find some time early next year to come back here and talk a lot about that project. What we're also doing with the UN Women.
Yeah, we'll come to that. Let's just allow those out there probably to make some points or make a call. The numbers to call. Again, you're listening to Accountability Hour. This program is produced by Cental, and it's part of our National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program. If you're out there and probably you'd like to participate, the numbers to call, or the number that I have here to call, is 0777-700-995, 0777-700-995. If you dial that number, you will be live. I don't know as to whether this other line is on, but you can call 0777-700-995 and be live on the program Accountability Hour. And let's go back to you. We have Executive Director Anderson Di Miami. In case you just turning in, he's our guest. He's the Executive Director of Cental. He has the Secretary of Cental, and he's here providing highlights on what we're doing at Cental.
Yeah. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Quickly.
Yes. This is Papa Pee from Old Road.
Go ahead.
When I see my big brother in the studio there, I will admire him.
Yes.
These are the things that we could educate our people, because corruption is very highly growing in the society.
Okay.
So I want to tell you thank you for his exposé.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's take this other person. Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Danako calling for Jakarta. I want to ask the boss in our office concerned about the social security business. The calculation social security can do for you if you work for, you get 100 months, do calculation, they say they're taking best 5 months. But you can't find it, you can never get to what is saying best 5 months. For example, 2019, from my end day of work or year of work with the organization. Then it took 5 months for in there. The first 5 months is about, let's say people pay, for example, 58,000. The other one for the 9,000. Another one 38,000. Another one 35.
Okay.
Then making it 29. But you can't see when you go see the money they're giving you, best 5 months, it don't work.
Okay.
Check.
Thank you very much. You can call our ALAC platform. The number is 4432. Once you call, you can explain, and then the folks will take it up from there. Thank you very much. Okay. Yeah. So let's go back to you and then focus a little bit more on our UN Women funded program, what that is about, and what are we doing.
Yeah, so we also have UN Women as one of our donors at the moment, our partners.
Okay.
We're grateful for that engagement because it's allowing us to build capacity while we're also strengthening capacity. So we've been trying a lot to mainstream gender across the things we do.
Yep.
And with the development of our gender policy, recruitment of a gender officer, dedicated person to lead our gender-related engagements, and the signing of the partnership agreement with UN Women, which is the institution, the UN body that leads on gender related issues.
Yep.
We're happy for that engagement. We're learning a lot and engaging a lot as well. That project allows us to engage a lot more as well, and it allows us to add a county that we have not been active in for many years now, which is Grand Jude County. So the four other counties that we're working in on that project are counties that I covered on some of the other programs we're doing, but the engagement is unique in terms of what we're doing. So the project is in Grand Jude, Nimba, Bapolu, and Bonk. So basically, what we're doing is to work with Wongosa, which is a partner to the project. One of the implementers of the project,
Okay.
to engage with citizens, build capacity, and make sure that they have enough in terms of what it takes, capacity-wise, skills-wise, to demand accountability from their leaders, public service delivery, participate in development planning and other processes at the local level, especially so that women, persons with disabilities, and many of these groups at the community level are often left out of these processes. When we talk about being left out, we're not talking about not getting, for example, the hairs at some point to get to participate. We're talking about decentralized, processes that can show that people are making meaningful inputs, and those inputs are being reflected in the final decisions that are made in terms of determination of projects that are implemented or funded under the county social development fund. So under that project, also we've been engaging a lot around the local government art in terms of the county service centers, for example, in terms of the county council, how much capacity they have, to what extent are they engaging with citizens, to what extent are the county councils, the county service centers effective and efficient in providing the services. In fact, we did a research report that we just released as well, and that report shows that while there is increasing knowledge around decentralization, information about the county service centers and all of that in the county council, there is a gap, in terms of citizens' participation and engaging with these processes.
Okay.
Many people also do not know about these centers, that they exist, and the services that they provide. And people raised concerns in that research regarding the quality of services that are provided, and how many of the services or some of the services are not provided. So you go there and say, for example, we're issuing driver's lessons, but that process around issuing driver's lessons can be consummated at that level. You still have to come to town, marriage certificate, and some of the other services to get the central administration or the Ministry of Internal Affairs, for example, to consummate that process or to do the signing. So that research report has been released. Next year, we hope to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
We are popularizing it at the county level at the moment. We had a team going to 2 of the counties to have engagements with citizens to talk about the report and how they need to engage with it. There is another leg of that engagement to the remaining 2 counties to talk about the report. And our hope is that the findings can help to enhance wherever it's happening at the local level, and we can also use the findings, especially so the Ministry of Internal Affairs and the government more broadly can use the findings to improve upon how the county service centers are running, because the services are there. Some of them are being provided fully, but some of the services are also not being provided fully. When you talk about decentralization, it has to be in full. When you take service or services to the people, they have to have the benefit of getting those services fully and not experience delays, either due to limited funding or support to the county service centers, or due to signature gap that they can't approve certain things at that level, because of which they have to take them back to Monrovia, almost like re-centralizing the process. So
Yeah, so in 30 seconds, we are out of time, so you could just give us your parting comments in 30 seconds, maybe by just telling us what to expect from Cental in 2026, what are some of the activities that may continue, or what are some of the activities that may be affected. by different, circumstances or whatnot. Just give her a picture of what Cental looks like or what it will look like in 2026.
Obviously, with the announcement that Sweden will be leaving, Cental will be affected.
Yep.
UC's departure has already affected the organization and many other CSOs.
In 30 seconds.
And so we look forward to engaging, thankfully. They said they will do that responsibly. We'll continue implementation up to August, thereabout. That's what we're hoping for.
Yep.
And we look forward to partnering, engaging with other donors that can come in to support our work. May I end on this note that while it's true that this government in 2025 did a lot of positives in terms of, for example, relative increase in support to public integrity institutions, LSCC, and other institutions, a number of indictments by either the asset recovery team or LSCC and all of that, there are gaps. One of those things is the whole lack of transparency around the Lofa County project, the FOIA project. We're calling on the government to do better next time. You can't initiate a project and people go to Minor River UN and Minor River UN say no, go to your government. And it takes you more than 4 months to come to the public with information on something that you should have. It sends a message that the government was trying to find the information that they didn't have it. If they had it readily, it would have been available on the spot. The spot that people ask questions and it took more than 2 months, it means that they didn't have the information. Or if they had it, they didn't want to provide it, which is a violation of the freedom of information.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Want to be clear about that.
And that's the voice of Anderson D. Miame, the Executive Director of Cental. And sadly, that's all the time we have for this edition of the program Accountability Hour. We may probably be back here next year, God's willing, until that time. My name is Edward Blamo. Bye-bye.
On every corner, clear and bright.